Are you tired? Need a real break from the stresses of life? Jesus said we could find rest in Him. Jesus said, find rest. Take a load off. Might be kind of appropriate on the day after Thanksgiving if you have a turkey hangover. Good morning and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from Matthew 11:28 through 30, and we'll be reading from the New English Translation today, where Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit and heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my load is not hard to carry." Now, if you've been following Jesus for any length of time, you may be asking, well, why doesn't this seem easier? Why isn't this easier? I've never heard anybody say, following Jesus is the easiest thing I've ever done. It almost seems like a contradiction here. If Jesus said his yoke or burden is easy to bear and not hard to carry, why does it sometimes seem so difficult? Well, what is a yoke? If you can imagine cattle or horses pulling a wagon, the yoke is that cross piece of wood that attaches the two animals together so that they can pull as a team. And it's important to realize that Jesus didn't say our yoke would be easy. His yoke is. So when things seem hard, could it be that you're trying to do things on your own and not the Jesus way? The very first step, come to Jesus. Earlier in Matthew 11, Jesus rebuked the cities where he had taught and performed miracles, and yet they still didn't repent and follow him. He clearly let them know that they had chosen the path of destruction. It's in that context that Jesus gave this invitation to rest. Don't choose the hard path. Choose to follow me instead. And I say this all the time, but you can't follow Jesus without really following Jesus. The first step for the tired and burdened, the first step is come to Jesus, come to him. But there are more steps. Let's read verse 29 again. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Take his yoke and learn from Jesus. Learn what? Well, to be gentle, humble in heart. You see, that's where the rest is. Now, the Jews in the first century were experts at so-called rest, and many are today, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They called it Sabbath, and one day a week, they would do no work like God had commanded. But they added a lot of extra rules, too. Sabbath had become a burden and sometimes a game of finger pointing, and not really about rest or honoring God. And right after Jesus said this, the disciples ran into some of those extra rules about the Sabbath. In Matthew 12, 1 through 2, about that time, Jesus was walking through some grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry, so they began breaking off some heads of grain and eating them. But the Pharisees saw them do it and protested, "Look, your disciples are breaking the law by harvesting grain on the Sabbath." Well, Jesus went on to explain that it was the Pharisees' extra rules and judgment that was the problem, not what the disciples did. "Oh, but we aren't the Pharisees. We don't have all those extra Sabbath rules." Well, we need to realize that rest isn't doing whatever we want. Rest is laying down our own works, our own will, to only do what Jesus said. And sometimes we say, well, I'm a New Testament Christian. I don't have to keep the Sabbath. And that's true in the sense of keeping the law as a form of righteousness. But if resting in Jesus as the Sabbath means we just do whatever we want, whenever we want, we've missed the point. And adding to what Jesus said and trying to carry the load on our own. And that's why things get tough. That's why we need to learn from Jesus. Humility and gentleness. It's hard work trying to be God. And when we do things our own way, that's exactly what we are trying to do. But Jesus said, find rest. Take a load off. How can you put that into action today. Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it really does mean a lot. If you like it, if you share it, and if you comment, I really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And you can find a Bible reading plan at bible.today.church that includes these Jesus Saids as well. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.